the Art and Industry of Business and Living podcast, discussing conscious choices around business, money, life and living, and creating a greater future for you and the planet. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Art and Industry of Business and Living. You are with Simone Milasas, your host, and I'm coming to you from cold, freezing my butt off Dublin, Ireland. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do next month when I have to go to Russia? I've discovered I'm not quite prepared for that. So attempting to get prepared. And I have one of my very favourite people here today with me, Mr. Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness. Welcome.
Thank you, Missy Simona.
So today we're going to talk about a topic that I'm hoping I might need my hopes and dreams bars run, which is one of the bars that you do in bars, which I talk about all the time in Access Consciousness. Is World Happiness Day is coming up in March, and we wanted to ask you a few questions about happiness. So what would you like people to know about happiness from someone that has been and done everything and lives, you live an incredibly full life, Gary.
I know, it's terrible.
Yeah, so what would you like people to know about happiness?
Well, the main thing is happiness is a choice you make. And when you make a choice that's actually for you, happiness pursues you. You don't pursue happiness. And people have this point of view that they have to pursue happiness, they have to find the happiness. It's like it's something that doesn't just present itself. But if you listen to the birds, do the birds sing from the sadness? They don't get up in the morning and go, I'm having a bad feather day, I'm not going to sing.
No, and they don't judge other birds.
And they don't go, oh, I want to sing like him, so I try to sing like him. They actually just enjoy the fact that they get the opportunity to sing. And if we all had the willingness to have that kind of reality, that would be living for the joy of it instead of living to find a reason to live. And see, it's like the one thing about happiness is it's not your reason for living, it's a result of living.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, it's like if you choose to live, then you don't do actions to avoid something. You choose actions that give you a place to live easier.
So a little bit like when, so many people function from the point of view of like, oh, when I have money or when I find the one, I'll be happy. Yeah. Rather than, no, you can just wake up and choose happiness.
Choose happiness.
And then a lot of that stuff will show up. Although I'm going to tell you, there is no the one. Just, sorry,
there
caveat.
Is what?
There is no the one.
That is correct.
Yeah, just a little caveat there. Yeah. So don't go choosing happiness thinking the one's going to show up. Sorry.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's like if you are actually choosing happiness, 1 or 21 might show up for you who want happiness.
I like the 21. So you're saying that choice is actually what creates happiness.
Choice is what creates happiness, and it's like. It's like I get up in the morning and I wake up and I go, okay, what grand and glorious adventure am I going to have today? And where do I need to put my attention to create the most that is possible today? And so, sometimes I have to put my attention on El Lugar. Sometimes I have to put my attention on the castle. Sometimes I have to put my attention on Right Voice for You. Sometimes I have to do it for the Guild. It's like each day is a new beginning. And it's like people tend to look not at today as a new beginning. They look at what do I have to handle that I didn't handle yesterday.
Yeah, and I want to comment too, because this morning I woke up and my head felt really like it was very full and and so one of the tools we talk about in Access is who does it belong to? And I'm brushing my teeth and I'm seriously going, wow, this is an intense day in the world. Okay, none of it's mine. It's like, what would I like to choose today?
Exactly.
Which is a question, and again goes back to what Gary is talking about, is, it starts with choice.
Yes.
Now, can I ask you too, it's like how many people try and find the right choice rather than just choosing? Can you talk about that?
8 billion.
Right.
Or how many are there on the planet? Okay, 2 less than whatever the number is on the planet.
So how do people start to choose, and going, it's okay that I stuffed up, it's okay that I make that choice?
First of all, you really have to ask the question, what's right about this I'm not getting, and what's right about me I'm not getting?
Which is one of my favorite questions in Access.
It's like, and people don't do that.
Yeah.
They always look for what's wrong with me that I can't make this happen, what's wrong with me that this didn't happen, what's wrong that I didn't get this, what's wrong that, it's like, what? It's like, nothing is wrong. Perhaps it is right. I had the experience one time, I was trying to rent an apartment in New York, and I wanted to get a rent-controlled apartment. thinking that way I would have predictable rent and stuff, and it was going to make my life easier. So I was going to this place, and I kept walking by the entrance to the building. I went, what's wrong with me that I can't see this building? I didn't ask what's right about this I'm not getting,
right.
Which I should have, because I rented the place, and it turned out to be a nightmare. The lady who I rented it from, I was supposed to have a room that was mine. She would use it when I was gone.
Wow.
And she would use any of my stuff. She just, she didn't care. And she would leave it dirty.
Right.
It's like, the number of time I found her dirty underwear under my bed was a little daunting.
Maybe she was trying to hint to you about something, Gary.
No, she definitely was not doing that. And even if she did, that would not have been a place I would have gone.
So basically the consciousness in the universe was already hinting to you, going, Douglas, don't get this apartment.
Get this. And when I moved out, it's like, she said, you busted my TV. And I went back and I went to try and fix it, and it said, no connection, no cable connection, because it was one of those TVs that has all the monitors and shit on it that'll tell you everything.
Yeah.
Which normally I can't do.
Right.
But for some reason on that one I was able to do it. And it's like, and it was not connected to the cable.
Right.
So I called the lady and I said, look, it's like, you know what, if you can prove to me that I did something to disconnect this, to disconnect this from the cable, because the TV says is not connected, it's like, I will pay for it, but I'm not paying for this unless she wanted like $450 from me to pay for her television. And all I done was unplug it.
Which is interesting too, because I see that so many people look at what they can take from someone, trying to create that as happiness in their world.
It's like if I can get this person to pay for this, then I don't have to pay for it. That'll make me happier.
Then it's like a notch up on my belt. Or
yes,
something like
I'm
that.
better than they are. And it's like, and it was interesting to find out that this, it's like literally the lady said, well, we had the cable company come out that afternoon, and they said it was what you broke. And I said, honey, really, you are telling me I live in Santa Barbara, which is this little tiny town in which you can get pretty good service, and it takes 3 days for the cable company to come out to you there. And you're saying in New York City, where they have 8 billion people that they service, that they got there that afternoon? You know what? You're lying. Don't lie to me.
So how many people lie to try and create happiness?
99% of the people on the planet lie to create happiness. So
even if you started out with not lying, especially to yourself.
Yeah. That's the most important one. Don't lie to yourself. And it's like, it's like trying to lie to me to get $450 out of me was like kind of crazy.
Rather than what I've noticed too, it's like anytime I've had a situation like that in my life, it creates like this, what I would call like this crunchy, funky energy. Yeah. And it's like, and as soon as I'm willing to let it go and just go, it's just money. It's just this. It's like, it creates a lightness, which in turn creates happiness and joy in my world.
Well, see, a lie always creates a heaviness, and a truth always makes you feel lighter. So it's like with this lady lying to me, it felt heavy. And when she couldn't possibly have done that, that's a lie. It's like, because that was the truth, suddenly it was all easier.
Right.
And I just, it's like, I don't want to live in a world in which I have to do the lies and believe the lies and follow the lies and think the lies mean something.
So that would be a great tool for people to start with too. Yeah. It's like, what if you stop lying, even just to yourself?
Yeah. Well, I say always lie to everybody else and tell yourself the truth. Be bluntly honest with self.
I like that. Yeah, you don't have to be truthful to everybody else. You're allowed to lie to others. Yes. And that's a whole other story and a whole other podcast.
Yes, exactly.
So now I want to just touch on something that you said. When you were looking for this apartment, you pretty much decided that if you got this apartment, it could be a predictable life, like paying a rent. So how many people try and look for happiness in predictability, and what else is available?
That's where most people look for happiness, and they look for it based on that. And it's like people will... It's like I was doing a relationship class once, and this guy said, well, it's like he was doing psychology. And in psychology, they told them that 85% of the people would rather have a bad relationship than no relationship. And my point of view is, why would you want to have a bad relationship?
Yeah.
I'd rather have no relationship.
Yeah.
And that's when I began to realize, okay, I'm a little different because I'm interested in a relationship that actually works and it creates a sense of happiness, not as a relationship that would be acceptable to others.
Well, it's the same thing in business. I mean, years ago, I had a conversation with a friend of mine in a bar in Sydney, Australia, and he said to me, "You make me sick with how much job satisfaction you get. Do you realise, Simone, every single job you get, you're really excited and enthused about it?" And I looked at him and went, "Isn't everyone?" And he was like, No.
And
I'm like, "Why do you do stuff if you don't like it?" And he was like,
Yes.
"Because it gives you money, it pays the rent." He goes, "You can bitch about it, you know, have a drink on a Friday afternoon and complain about the week." And I'm like, why? I don't get it. I never understood that.
No, and I know. And it's like I remember when we were walking down the street and you said, "Why do these people do this?" And I said, "Because they can." "Yes, but if you don't have any joy, why would you do business?" I said, I think you need to write a book.
I think you're a little different, Simone.
I think you're a little different. I think you need to write a book about the joy of business.
Yeah.
And it's turned out to be a fabulous book, and it is the gift you are, because you see the joy in business, and you actually enjoy working. And it's like, so do I. It's like Dana and I took a vacation once, and we went on a horse trekking trip in New Zealand. It was in the mountains, and it was supposed to be so beautiful. And we had these giant horses that were half Clydesdale, half thoroughbred. So they were taller than crap and so wide that it hurt your legs to get on them because you were, your feet were almost sticking straight out to your sides. And it was like, holy shit. And the lady was going, "Okay, now when we get to a hill, you have to lead the horse down the hill because you can't be hard on their backs."
I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like a fly on this horse's back.
I mean, it's like I weighed 165 pounds, and it's like, and I'm a detriment to this 1,200-pound horse? Give me a break. And then we had to stand up in the stirrups going up so that we wouldn't hurt their backs. And
that was your holiday.
And that was our holiday. And it's like, oh yeah, and we're not allowed to canter. Because that's bad.
Because horses hate cantering?
Yes,
oh my goodness.
Yes, horses do not canter. In a natural state, a horse would never canter.
Right, of course.
Oh, bullshit. I've known horses in natural state, and they canter just for the fun of it.
So then how many people look for happiness in a holiday, look for happiness at the 2 weeks of the year that they get, look for happiness on, the Sunday, drinking session or barbecue or something? They look for happiness outside of themselves, and they look for something that will give them happiness. They don't choose to be happy regardless. So do you have any, tips that if someone's listening to this going, that is such... I mean, I've been working with you for 17 years, and with the Access Consciousness tools, it's changed my entire life in every single area. And in the areas that it hasn't, changed in totality, I'm working on it, and I'm working on stuff every single day. There's nowhere I think I've got this. And for those people listening that this is totally a brand new concept to actually just choose happiness, what's some of the tools that you can give to them to start?
What's right about this I'm not getting. Because it's like nothing is wrong. Nothing is ever wrong. But what is right about this, I'm not getting. And what's right about me, I'm not getting. Everybody looks and sees that they're wrong, and they've been told they're wrong their whole life. It's like, I know your mother was always good about telling you how right you were.
Yeah.
Never.
Not.
Yeah. And it's like, it's like my mother used to say, "You can do anything, Gary, but don't do this. And don't do this. And don't do this." Well, if I can do anything, why can't I do those things? And so it's like I did grow up with the point of view I should be able to do anything. And what am I choosing? And how can I do it?
So how many people, I see people, not how many because I know it's a hell of a lot, but I see people attempting to choose happiness based on how they make somebody else happy.
Yes. And that's...
Is it ever going to get them anywhere?
No.
Okay,
it's
so what's something
I spent my life trying to make my wives happy. And they were never happy, and they still are not happy to this day.
So because to me, if you're going to start with you to make you happy, I know that there's an energy that shows up that it's like selfish, that you're just choosing for you. No, can you talk a little bit about how that is? Yeah.
It's like, and the thing is, only if you are willing to be an inspiration by being the happiness you are, do you inspire others to choose happiness. And you need to, it's not selfishness, it's inspiration. It's inspirational when people can choose something that expands and creates their lives. And it's like, we look for the people who inspire us, and, who inspires you? I mean, how many actors have you thought inspired you only to discover that they had terrible lives. They didn't like their wives, they didn't like their kids, they didn't like anything, and they were doing massive amounts of drugs and alcohol in order to be able to function in the world.
Yeah, and it's interesting because if you look at who inspires you in the world, how many people do you choose that you choose a depressed, sad person? Oh yeah, you don't.
Yeah.
It's like there was I caught a plane the other day from New Zealand to Australia, and I got on first because I was travelling in business class, and I'm sitting in the third row, and I watched the steward as everyone got on. So I had the whole plane to watch.
Yeah.
And every single person he addressed, whether he looked at their ticket and said hello by their name, asked how they were, they're Japanese. He had a couple of, Japanese sentences phrases, that he would say, and he would do that. By the time they got from him to me, 3 rows, every single person was smiling. And I went, wow, that guy is incredible.
He's an inspiration.
Yeah.
To create a better world.
Yeah, and he wasn't vested in the outcome, wasn't looking for a result.
If you choose happiness, you become an inspiration for creating a better world. It's like I do all these classes all around the world, and people are like grateful. The other day I got a standing ovation that like lasted for 10 minutes, and I was going, shut up, stop. I don't want to hear this.
Okay, so what about receiving things like that? Like when you are an inspiration, what do you have to receive?
Yeah, it's like what you have to receive is how grateful people are. And that's the reason people don't choose happiness, because they don't want to see the gratitude that it creates in the world.
We are a stupid species, aren't we?
Yes.
Truly. I mean, receiving gratitude, so what would you have to be if you're willing to receive that much gratitude?
You have to be the happiness and the inspiration and the source for greater possibilities. And people don't want to be a source for greater possibilities. They want to fit in. They want to live a normal life.
So being a source of greater possibilities is definitely being outside of the box.
Yeah. And it's like, I talked with the lady the other day about it. I said, you've got to enjoy being insane. She said, I can't be. I'm not insane. I said, how do you know you're not insane? Well, because every time I, look at what I do, I judge it and then control myself. I said, so what if your out of control was not the insanity? What if out of control was sanity? And she went, what? And the smile broke out on her face. And I went, you're smiling because you know that's true.
Mm.
And you see that that's the truth. And she started to laugh. She said, oh my God, you mean I can be as out of control as I think I really want to be? I said, yeah. Yeah, you may offend some people, but the people you offend are pretty much not worth worrying about.
Right, and usually end up offending the people who desire you so strongly to be inside the box and to fit into a contextual reality. Yeah.
And to control you. See, most people want to control you. And I had an interview the other day with this journalist who was just, she was a piece of work. She'd already made up her mind what she was going to say, and she said she wanted to interview me, but she didn't really want to interview me. She wanted to get some quotes to prove that she was right. I have evidence that, your group is a cult. I said, have you read The True Believer, which is the Bible that people study to learn what a cult is and how a cult functions and what its purpose is? I said, I have, and I would never create a cult. And it's like, and it's like, she said, well, then I'm not calling you a cult, you're just a shady organization. Based on who? I have evidence. How many people do you have that are giving you evidence? I have several. Is that 2 or more? I can't answer that. I have to keep my sources. So it's 2 or less. Okay, good.
So
it's like, but I was yelling at her at the end of it because it's like she's already made up her mind what she's going to say. She's there to gather evidence for the rightness of her point of view. And when people gather evidence for the rightness of their point of view, they're throwing happiness away with both hands. They're throwing it away.
So all the decisions that they've made, all the decisions, the rightness of their point of view is never going to create happiness.
No, it's never going to create happiness. It's never going to create anything except unhappiness for them.
Do you have a process that people could run to put on a loop?
So what jails are you using to create the dominance of E equals MC square as always knowing what you are wrong at, so you never have to choose happiness? Are you choosing?
And everything at that is times a godzillion.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds.
So if you want to find out more about the clearing statement, don't forget to go to theclearingstatement.com with our lovely friend Dr. Dane here explaining all about it. But you know what? This stuff works.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's like you may not understand it, but it does work.
Yeah. Can you remember that? Can you run it one more time?
Yes. So what jails are you using? And jail stands for the judgments, the
agendas, inventions, and lies.
Yeah. Are you using to create the dominance of E equals MC squared, which is evil equals
mediocrity and corruption.
Yeah, squared.
And evil is basically anti-consciousness,
unconsciousness, all the things that create less than. To acknowledge, no, to justify the wrongness of you that avoids the value of being happy. Are you choosing?
I like it. That's another one. It's brilliant. And everything at that is times a godzillion where you destroy and uncreate it.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pot.
Hey, how did we get so lucky? It's like we got two processes.
I thought it was, it's like I couldn't remember the first one.
And if you guys ask for the PDF of this, you'll get them all written down for you, so make it nice and easy. So if you're scrambling for a pen right now, don't worry about it. It's like listen again and order the PDF of this, and it's all there. So let me ask you a question too, Gary. Can people be happy all the time? Or you know how people go that yin and yang, and it's like you've got to have sadness to have happiness?
I am.
Yeah, me too. And there's moments that I wouldn't say it's not happy, like not being happy, but I would say there's an intensity, like this morning.
Yeah.
But it really, you don't just go, happy, running around, smiling all the time.
Well,
it's
that's
like,
manic. That's not happy.
Yeah, like I'm seriously
Happiness
brushing my teeth.
Recognizing, thank God I'm alive.
Yeah.
It's like I'm lucky. I'm 77 now. So when I wake up in the morning, I go, wow, I'm happy because I'm alive.
And you are truly alive. Like, oh my goodness. It's like you do more than anyone else I know. And it's like, and you don't complain and you don't, be like, oh my God, I can't move. I can't do this. You're like, okay,
my body
what's
hurts.
What's next?
Good. So how can I change this?
Yeah.
So it's like my life is how can I change what isn't working for me? And that is where happiness comes from, looking at how you can change what doesn't work.
Like for myself this morning, brushing my teeth with the intensity going, okay, this is not mine. So what else? What other choices do I have available here? Which goes back to what we were saying right at the beginning of this podcast is, what happiness does come down to a choice.
Yeah. So you have to look at it and go, okay, what can I choose different?
What can I choose different here? Yeah. What can I choose different here that's going to create, something different showing up with every area of your life?
Yes, and it's like, and you have to be willing to choose that which creates a difference in life rather than choosing what makes you right in life.
So one of the things that Dane here said about you once, and I loved it, he said, because people go, oh, Gary thinks he's always right. And he was like, no, he doesn't think he's right.
I never think I'm right.
But he's also never wrong.
I never think I'm wrong.
And what you function from is awareness.
Yes, and I function from the question that gives me the awareness because that's what creates happiness. Functioning from the question that gives you the awareness that allows you to choose happiness with great ease.
So can you talk a little bit about never being wrong? Because I love that part.
Well, it's like, the thing is, it's like I was told, when my parents told me you can do anything, but you can't do this, and I said, why can't I do that? Well, it's just wrong to choose that. Why is it wrong? And what makes it wrong?
Right.
Because other people will judge you. I said, what if I don't care that other people judge me?
Oh, my goodness.
Well, you have to care. Why? Because otherwise, people will disregard you. And I went, good, I want to be disregarded. I don't want people to pay attention to me that much. I want to choose what works for me. And I had already learned through my early childhood that I was damn fucking strange. Okay? Because people would say, oh, that's just disgusting. And I go, kind of interesting to me.
Mm.
It's like, you can do that? I didn't know you could do that. How do you get, it's like, how do you do that? And I was always of the opinion that it's like, no matter what it was, how can I choose that? What is it that makes it possible to choose that? Because my parents had told me you could choose anything. And I believed them. They were really sweet, lovely people who didn't have a clue mostly, and they were trying to get life right.
So also one of the things I hear you saying with this too is that people don't choose for them based on not trying to create judgment in others.
Yeah.
And yet people are judging all the time.
Non-stop. And
anyway.
actually, Actually, one of the things that we talked about, Dana and I talked about last night, about this relationship class
that we're about to do in Dublin.
Yes. It's like literally what we realized is people use the people that judge them the most as the people that are most attractive.
Yeah, well,
their judgment attracts you because you realize they are pulling away from you with their judgment, so you think that's attraction.
Which you taught me many years ago, that every man that I was looking at that I wanted to have sex with or get involved with, I remember one day you went, "Why do you want to have sex with this guy?" And I went, "Because he's cute and blah, 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 blah." And you went, "He's an asshole."
He's a judgmental asshole.
Judgmental asshole, yeah. And what I realised, with the help of you, and not easy, can I just say that, guys?
Oh, it's not easy.
Using the Access Consciousness tools is not like the
Consciousness
easiest
is
thing.
not easy.
No, it can be incredibly uncomfortable, but every time you get uncomfortable, it's like if you avoid choosing, you avoid change.
And if you avoid change, you avoid possibility.
And happiness.
Especially happiness.
So, but what I realised was every man I was choosing had the same judgments as that I had of me and my body, so they matched my judgment. So I went, look, there you go, a fit. Which it wasn't a fit. It was a fit to the judgments I had of me, which didn't allow me any choice to change. And I remember you saying to me, what if you actually chose to sleep with someone who was kind, caring and nurturing? And I was like, wow, that's a different point of view.
And why would I want to choose that?
Yeah.
You know,
but it's like, what if you did step outside the box in every area of your life, whether it's business, money, relationships, bodies? What do you choose to do with your body? It's like, this whole lot of other possibilities
judge
available.
me dynamically about the way I spend money. And I go, yes, but what are you creating with your money? I pay my bills.
Oh, my God.
So do I.
Yeah.
But I don't use money to just, have it. I don't use money to save it. I don't use money to do anything except create a better life.
So let's talk about that as the last piece of this podcast too, because with Joy Business too, I've done so many sessions and have so many people who you say, ask them about money and they go, well, I want enough to pay my bills. Yeah. That'll make me happy. And it's like, seriously? So it's like that's their happiness quota, enough to pay their bills?
Enough to pay their bills, enough to be comfortable is what most people want.
So what else can they ask for?
It's like, so what would be so dynamically awful for me to have to suffer with money, having money, that I avoid it rather than creating it and the joy I can have with it. Yeah.
And everything that is times a gazillion, destroy and uncreate it, right and on, good and bad, pock and pot all night, shorts, boys and beyonds. And it's interesting too, because when I found myself in debt many years ago, and then I got out of debt, I was like, wow, this is such a strange concept to be out of debt and actually have money. And luckily, I was willing to be present enough with what I was creating that I realized 2 weeks later I had created myself being back in debt again. And I went, okay, hang on. What do I love about being in debt? Yeah. And I realized it was comfortable for me. It was predictable. I knew it.
Well, you knew how to deal with that. Yeah. You knew how to live that way.
So then I asked, I would like to actually find out what it's like to have money. And that's what Gary's referring to. It's like, what if you're willing to suffer having money?
I had a friend who, said, oh, man, I got this great deal on this designer dress at the thrift store. It was only $200. And I said, well, how much would it have cost you if you'd gone to the store? It would cost me $2,000. So how many hours did you spend looking for that to create that? She says, I don't know, 8 or 10. I said, so you earn $250 an hour right now when you work. She was a rolfer at the time.
Yeah.
She says, you earn $250 an hour, so if you had worked 10 hours, that would have given you the money to buy it. But you spent 10 hours searching for the bargain.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I went shopping yesterday in Dublin, and they've got sales here. And I'm looking for, because I'll be in Russia next month, and it's going to be
freezing
minus 10 degrees Celsius. And every shop I went into, they kept saying, oh, this one's not on sale, this one's not on sale. And I was like, I don't care about sales. I just want to be warm. I really don't care about that. But I see so many people choose less than based on money, like making money the source of their happiness rather than another choice.
Yeah, and it's like, and they would be more comfortable paying less and freezing.
Yeah.
Than paying more and being warm.
Yeah, no, I want to be able to
Crazy.
walk out into the Red Square and...
Yeah.
I'm not asking to be warm. Like, I think that's a bit over the top, but I'm asking not to freeze my butt off.
Yeah. Well, it's like the good news is if you froze your butt off, your butt would be smaller.
Exactly.
Other than that, no problem.
All right, we'll just chip it off.
Chip it off. You can chip it off. Chip this butt off me, yeah.
Yeah. So, thank you so much, Gary, for joining me here today.
Thank you. It's always fun talking with you, Misty Simone.
Any other last tips you want to leave people to choose happiness?
Choose that which brings you joy. It's like when I got divorced, I had the old chipped china, and I had 24 place settings of fabulous china, and I put the 24 pieces away, and then realized that my apartment was so small, 24 people couldn't fit in it. So obviously I would not be using it for a dinner party. And I went, why the hell am I using the chipped china when I can have this beautiful stuff every day? And so I use my beautiful china as my everyday china. Yeah. Everybody else has their chipped china that they use as their everyday, and they save their good stuff for later. And it's like, and I watch people do that with their clothes. They save their good clothes for later. You know what? If today was the last day of your life, what would you want to use?
Yeah, and what if every day was a big day? And what if every day was a great day, and every day was a happy day, and every day was a joyful day?
Exactly.
And I just want to comment too, it's like when Gary said too, it's like choose what brings you joy.
Yeah.
If you have no idea what brings you joy, it's like just start with that question and,
ask.
Ask. Start writing down things when you notice. It's like, for myself, it's like one of the things I love doing, even if it's for 15 minutes, is going across the road where I live with my dog and going to the beach, just walking. My dog has so much friggin' joy in him. Every time he goes to the beach, you swear to God it's the first time he's been there. Like, he looks at you going, oh my God, it's a beach.
It's a beach, yeah.
And it's like that alone, it's like,
well, what if you lived your life
the joy.
That way?
Yeah, exactly.
What if you lived your life from that joy? Oh my God,
it's a new day.
It's a new day, and I get to be alive,
exactly.
And I get to have fun. Now, what's wrong, and what am I going to have to deal with?
Exactly. Yes.
Yes.
So, and I also want to suggest, which I do so often on these podcasts, is get your bars run. That will also create more joy for you. And if you want to find a bars, I recommend doing a bars class actually, because then you get to, run bars twice, receive bars twice, and you get to see a great video, learn a bunch of stuff, you get a manual, and
then
you
you can go out and run other people's bars.
Exactly. And earn money from it. Be a practitioner.
What's really funny is I had a man who was in his 60s who'd spent half his life in ashrams in India. Mm-hmm. And he said, I spent my entire life going into caves to meditate myself into happiness. And he said, I would come out and I would look around, and within 2 days I'd be back to being miserable. He says, now I just run some bars every day, and as long as I'm running bars every day, I'm happy every day.
Well, I went to an ashram the first time when I was 15, and the rightness of their point of view is so prevalent that it's like you don't get to choose. It's like you have to choose what they say you choose.
Yeah.
It's like,
because they know what's right and you don't.
And that's the one thing that's one of the first things I ever heard Gary say at a seminar I went to in Sydney. And he said, don't trust me, trust you. He goes, go, if I say anything that, doesn't feel like to you, don't choose that. Choose what you know. And I was like, oh my God, thank God someone's not telling me what to do. They're actually empowering me to know that I know, which is the tagline of Access Consciousness.
Yes, and it's what we want for everybody on the planet, because if we all lived from that, this would be a happy planet. Yeah,
and you'll know what to choose. So don't forget to check out happinessisjustachoice.com. It's a website that we have based in Australia, and it's got lots of really cool merchandise on there.
It's not happiness.com.au?
No, happinessisjustachoice.com. Don't confuse the audience.
Okay.
Happinessisjustachoice.com. You can get some really cool hats and T-shirts and water bottles, etc. there. And also accessjoybusiness.com. You can find a Joy Business facilitator near you and get yourself to an Access Consciousness class. Get your bars run.
Get your bars run.
You know what? Just choose happiness today.
Just choose what works for you.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right, so thank you very much, Mr. Gary Douglas. It's always so much fun to have you on. I absolutely adore you. You are a gift to the world. Thank you for being in the world today. Bye-bye, everyone.